Hey, my friends, how are you today? I'm so excited you're here because today I have a story that might just change the way you see the world. Imagine leaving everything you know, your family, your friends, your home, to chase a dream in a place as beautiful and mysterious as Japan. In the next few minutes, you'll join me on a journey of first steps, surprising kindness from strangers, and the simple moments that taught me patience, respect, and true courage. Ready to dive in? Let's get started. This is the true story of my life in Japan, a journey of fear, hope, mistakes, friendship, and quiet moments that changed me forever. When I was a child, I lived in a small town far away from big cities. Our town was quiet and peaceful. There were trees and fields everywhere, and the people knew each other well. My family was simple, but full of love. My father worked hard at a small factory, and my mother took care of me and my little sister. We did not have a lot of money, but we had enough to live happily. Even though I loved my home, I always felt curious about the world outside. I dreamed about places I had never seen. But one place caught my heart more than any other: Japan. I remember the first time I saw Japan. It was not in a book or on a map. It was on television. I was sitting on the floor of our living room, watching cartoons. The colors were bright, the stories exciting. I saw ninjas running through forests, children playing under cherry blossom trees, and small shops filled with delicious food. The voices were lively, the music cheerful. It was like a beautiful dream. That show was called Naruto. It told the story of a boy who never gave up, even when life was hard. I watched every episode, feeling like I was part of his world. Japan felt magical, a place full of respect, kindness, and adventure. But I didn't know much about the country yet. I just knew I wanted to visit. I wanted to walk under those pink cherry blossoms, try the strange food, and maybe meet people like Naruto, strong, brave, and kind. At school, I started reading about Japan. I learned about Mount Fuji, the highest mountain in the country. I read stories about samurai, the brave warriors of old times. I saw pictures of beautiful temples and quiet gardens where the wind moved the leaves gently. I told my parents about my dream. One day, I want to go to Japan, I said. My mother smiled softly. Japan is very far, she said. My father nodded. It is not easy to live in another country, but if it is your dream, you should try. Their words gave me courage. I wanted to work hard. I wanted to learn everything I could. That night, I stayed up late reading a small book about Japan. The letters looked strange, so different from my own language, but the more I looked at them, the more I wanted to understand. I told myself, I will learn Japanese. I will make my dream real. Learning Japanese was not easy. The first challenge was the alphabet. It was not just one, but three. Hiragana and katakana were simpler, but kanji was very difficult. Kanji looked like little pictures, and there were thousands of them. Sometimes I wanted to give up. The letters looked like puzzles I could not solve. I would make mistakes and feel frustrated. But every time I thought about Japan, I felt strong again. I made a routine. Every morning before school, I practiced writing the letters. Every evening, I listened to Japanese songs and tried to read the words. I watched videos of people speaking Japanese. I even tried to speak simple sentences out loud. At school, I told my friends about Japan. Some laughed. Some said it was too hard. But I didn't mind. I kept my dream alive in my heart. Years passed, and my Japanese got better. I made friends online who also loved Japan. We helped each other learn words and phrases. I watched anime without subtitles. I could understand simple conversations. One day, I heard about a scholarship for students who wanted to study in Japan. It was a small chance, but I applied. I wrote my story, my dream, and how much I wanted to learn. The waiting was the hardest part. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. I almost forgot about the application. Then one afternoon, my phone beeped. There was an email from the scholarship office. My hands were shaking as I opened it. The words were simple but powerful. Congratulations, you have been accepted. I couldn't believe it. I cried tears of joy. My parents hugged me tight. My mother's eyes were wet, and my father smiled quietly but proudly. That moment changed everything. My dream was no longer a dream. It was real. I began to prepare. I bought books, clothes, and things I needed. I said goodbye to my friends. I promised to send letters and pictures. When I finally stepped on the plane to Japan, my heart was full of hope and fear. I did not know what awaited me. I only knew one thing. This was the beginning of a new life. After receiving the scholarship email, my world changed overnight. I read the message again and again just to make sure it was real. Each time I saw the word congratulations, my heart jumped. I had never felt such a strong mix of happiness, fear, and pride all at once. I showed the email to my parents, and they looked at it with wide eyes. My mother covered her mouth and started to cry. My father stood up and hugged me. "You did it," he said quietly. "You're going to Japan." That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about the new world waiting for me. I was excited, but I was also scared. Would I be able to understand people? Would I make friends? Would I miss home too much? I decided I had to prepare as much as I could. Every day after school, I studied Japanese harder than ever before. I knew the basics, but now I wanted to speak more naturally. I watched Japanese dramas and paused every sentence to write it down and say it out loud. I repeated words until my mouth got tired. I bought a second-hand Japanese grammar book with the little money I had saved. I read it like a storybook, page by page. I started writing a diary in Japanese, even if my sentences were wrong. I just wanted to keep practicing. Some days were hard. Sometimes I looked at one kanji character for over an hour, trying to remember it. Sometimes I felt like I wasn't improving at all. But I remembered why I started. I remembered the bright lights, the peaceful temples, and the kind people. I kept going. One evening, I was watching a video of a young man who had moved to Japan for work. He spoke Japanese fluently and walked through the streets of Tokyo like he belonged there. At the end of the video, he said, "Japan changed my life." I paused the video and whispered to myself, "It will change mine too." At school, my friends began to ask more questions. "Are you really going?" one of them asked. "Isn't it scary to go so far alone?" "It is," I replied honestly, "but it's also something I've dreamed about for years." They nodded. One of them said, "I hope you make it." Little by little, I started preparing my documents: passport, visa, medical checkups, school records. Everything had to be perfect. I spent hours filling out forms, checking dates, and reading instructions. It was the first time in my life I felt truly like an adult. My parents were proud, but I could see the worry in their eyes. My mother cleaned my room every day and folded my clothes extra carefully. My father walked with me to the train station just to talk. They didn't say much, but I could feel their love in every small thing they did. One night, my mother came to my room and sat on my bed. "Do you really want to go?" she asked. "Yes," I answered softly. She looked at me for a long time, then held my hand. "I will miss you," she whispered. I hugged her and said, "I will miss you too, but I want to grow. I want to see the world." She nodded and kissed my forehead. That was her way of saying, "I understand." As the day of my flight came closer, everything felt like a dream. I bought a small suitcase. I packed clothes, books, my favorite photos, and a notebook full of Japanese words I had written myself. On the final night before leaving, my family made my favorite meal. We sat together and laughed, but our eyes were full of tears. My little sister gave me a drawing of our family. "Keep this with you," she said, "so you don't forget us." "I'll never forget," I said, holding the picture close to my heart. At the airport, I tried to be strong, but when it was time to say goodbye, I cried. My mother wiped my tears. My father shook my hand and pulled me into a long hug. "You are not going away," he said. "You are going forward." His words stayed with me. As I sat on the plane, watching the land become smaller and smaller, I felt many things: sadness, fear, love, and hope. I was leaving everything I knew, but I was also stepping into the life I had dreamed of. The flight was long. I looked out the window, watching the clouds pass like soft mountains. I closed my eyes and thought about all the nights I had studied, all the words I had learned, all the dreams I had kept alive in my heart. And now I was on my way to Japan. The day finally came. I was ready to start my new life in Japan. My suitcase was packed, my heart was full of hope, and my mind was a little scared. When the plane landed in Tokyo, I looked out the window. The city was huge. Tall buildings touched the sky. Cars and trains moved quickly everywhere. It was very different from my small town. I felt excited, but also nervous. Everything looked new and strange. The signs were written in Japanese letters I still did not know well. People spoke fast, and I could only understand a few words. I took my suitcase and walked out of the airport. The air was cool and fresh. I smiled because my dream was real. I was in Japan. But soon I felt lost. The airport was very big, and I didn't know where to go. My phone stopped working, so I could not call anyone. I looked around, but no one spoke my language. For the first time, I felt very alone. It started to rain. Small drops fell on my face and my clothes. I held my suitcase tight and looked for a place to stay. My heart beat faster. What should I do? Then a kind lady saw me. She smiled and spoke slowly in Japanese. I did not understand her words, but her eyes were warm. She took out her phone and showed me a picture of a map. She helped me find a taxi and told the driver where I needed to go. I thanked her with a small bow and a smile. Her kindness gave me hope. The taxi drove me through the busy streets of Tokyo. I watched people walk by, some in suits, some in school uniforms. The lights of shops and signs were bright even in the rain. After a while, I arrived at the dormitory where I would live. It was small but clean. I opened my suitcase and looked at my new room. It was quiet and empty. I sat on the bed and felt a wave of loneliness. I missed my family. I missed my home. But I also felt proud. I was here. I had come so far. That night, I wrote in my diary, "Today was hard. I was scared and lost. But a stranger helped me. Japan feels big and new. I am ready to learn. I will be brave." I closed my eyes and thought about tomorrow. The next morning, I woke up early. The sunlight came softly through the window. I felt a little nervous, but also excited to start my first day at the university. I got dressed carefully. I wanted to make a good first impression. I put on my clean clothes and packed my bag with my books and notebook. When I arrived at the campus, everything looked peaceful and beautiful. There were tall trees, clean paths, and many students walking quietly. I saw some students bow to each other when they met. It was different from my country, but it felt respectful. In my first class, the teacher spoke slowly. I tried my best to listen and understand. Sometimes I did not know a word, but I kept looking at the teacher's face and the notes. I wanted to learn. During breaks, I met some classmates. They were friendly but shy. One girl smiled at me and said, "Hello." I smiled back and said, "Hello." It was a small moment, but it made me happy. One day, I lost my wallet in the cafeteria. I felt scared and worried. My wallet had some money and my student ID. I looked everywhere, but could not find it. I told a staff member, and she helped me. Then, a student came with my wallet. She said she found it on the floor and wanted to return it. I thanked her with all my heart. That moment taught me something important. People here are honest and kind. I felt trust grow inside me. I started joining study groups. We helped each other with homework and shared ideas. Sometimes we spoke in Japanese, sometimes in English. It was fun and helpful. After class, we often went to small cafes near the university. We drank tea and talked about our dreams. I shared my story about coming from far away to study in Japan. My friends listened carefully and encouraged me. One afternoon, during a language exchange meeting, I met a boy who wanted to learn my language. We talked for hours, teaching each other new words. We laughed a lot and promised to meet again. Little by little, Japan began to feel less strange and more like home. Sometimes, I still missed my family a lot, but I knew they were proud of me. I kept studying hard and making small friends. Every day was a new chance to learn, to grow, and to become stronger. After some months in Japan, I started to understand not only the language, but also the culture. Japan is a country full of beautiful traditions that connect people with their past and with each other. I wanted to learn these traditions because I wanted to feel part of this new home. One day, I joined the tea ceremony club at my university. The tea ceremony is a special way of making and drinking tea. It is very quiet and careful. Every movement is slow and full of meaning. The tea room was small and peaceful. The soft sound of water boiling made me feel calm. At first, I was nervous. I didn't know the right way to hold the tea bowl or how to bow politely. But the teacher was patient. She showed me step by step. I learned to appreciate the simple beauty of the ceremony, the way the tea looked, the smell of the powdered green tea, and the gentle smile of the people around me. The tea ceremony taught me something important: patience and respect. In my country, things are often fast and loud. Here, I learned to slow down and enjoy small moments. In spring, I joined a local festival in my neighborhood. People wore colorful yukatas, light cotton kimonos. The streets were full of lanterns, music, and laughter. Children ran around with sparklers, and families shared sweet snacks. I wore a blue yukata that a kind neighbor helped me put on. It felt strange but beautiful. I walked carefully on the stone streets, trying not to trip. I tasted takoyaki, small balls of dough with octopus inside, and smiled at the new taste. At the festival, I met many friendly faces. Everyone bowed politely and said konnichiwa when they met me. I learned the words itadakimasu before eating and gochiso-sama after. These small words showed respect for food and the people who made it. I practice bowing every day. Bowing is not just saying hello. It shows respect and kindness. I started to bow to my teachers, my friends, and even strangers on the street. Living in Japan taught me that respect is important in every moment, in silence, in speech, and in action. One afternoon, while walking home, I saw cherry blossom petals falling like soft snow. I stopped and watched them dance in the air. A feeling of peace came over me. I thought about how far I had come from a small town to this new world. I felt grateful. Grateful for the kindness of strangers, the beauty of traditions, and the chance to learn. Japan was no longer just a dream. It was becoming my home. After a year of studying, I found a part-time job to help with my expenses. Working in Japan was a new challenge. I wanted to do my best, but I soon realized that work here was different from what I expected. My job was at a small cafe near the university. I served coffee and snacks to customers. The cafe was busy and the pace was fast. I had to be polite, fast, and careful. I learned many new words and phrases for customers. Irashaime, welcome. Arigatou gozaimasu, thank you very much. And sumimasen, excuse me. At first, I made many mistakes. I spilled drinks, forgot orders, and sometimes did not understand what customers wanted. I felt embarrassed and wanted to quit. But my manager was kind. She told me, gaman, which means to be patient and strong. Mistakes are okay, she said. Keep trying. I decided to keep going. Every day, I practiced more Japanese. I watched how my coworkers worked quietly and carefully. I learned to smile even when I was tired. I learned to listen with respect. Sometimes the job was very hard. I worked long hours and felt tired. I missed my family more than ever. But I remembered why I was here, to grow, to learn, and to become stronger. One day, a customer left a thank you note on the table. It said, "Your kindness made my day better." I felt proud and happy. I knew my hard work was not wasted. I learned an important lesson in Japan. Work is not only about money. It is about respect, patience, and care. Every challenge made me better. Every mistake taught me something new. I grew not only as a worker, but also as a person. Life in Tokyo was fast, colorful, and full of people. But sometimes I needed quiet. I needed to breathe fresh air, listen to birds, and feel the wind on my face. One weekend, I decided to travel outside the city. I wanted to see the other side of Japan, not just tall buildings and trains, but mountains, rivers, and small villages. I took a train early in the morning. As the city disappeared behind me, the view changed. I saw wide fields, green hills, and quiet forests. The train passed rivers that shone under the sunlight. My heart felt calm. I got off in a small town. It was peaceful and slow. There were no loud cars or busy people. The houses were made of wood, and there were flowers in front of every door. An old woman was sweeping the street. She smiled and bowed when she saw me. I bowed back. I stayed at a ryokan, a traditional Japanese inn. The room had tatami mats on the floor, and the walls were made of paper screens. I took off my shoes at the door and wore slippers inside. A warm feeling filled my heart. It felt like home. That evening, I went to an onsen, a hot spring bath. I was nervous at first. Everyone had to wash carefully before entering. It was quiet inside. Only the sound of water could be heard. I sat in the hot water, surrounded by rocks and trees. The steam touched my face gently. My body relaxed. My heart slowed down. I looked up at the sky. It was clear and full of stars. I had never seen stars like that in the city. I closed my eyes and felt at peace. The next day, I visited a small shrine on top of a hill. The steps were old and covered with fallen leaves. I climbed slowly, feeling each step. When I reached the top, I rang the bell, clapped my hands twice, and made a quiet wish. I wished for strength and peace for myself and for my family far away. As I walked back down, I saw an old man feeding birds. He spoke to me in Japanese. I understood some of his words. He told me he came here every morning to think. The mountains are our teachers, he said. They say nothing, but they teach everything. That sentence stayed in my heart. Nature in Japan taught me something I had not learned in the classroom. How to be still, how to listen without speaking, how to find peace even when the heart is tired. When I returned to Tokyo, I was different. I still had work to do, classes to attend, and many challenges to face. But now I carried a quiet feeling inside me, a memory of mountains, stars, warm water, and soft wind. I had found beauty beyond the city and inside myself, too. Over time, I made many friends in Japan. Each friend was like a small light in my new life. They helped me feel less alone and more confident. One of my closest friends was Yuki. She was kind and patient. At first, she helped me with my Japanese. She explained words I didn't understand and invited me to her family's home for dinner. Her family was warm and welcoming. I felt like I belonged. We laughed together, shared meals, and studied for exams. Sometimes, we walked in the park and talked about our dreams. Yuki wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be someone who could build bridges between our countries. But life is always changing. After 2 years, I had to say goodbye. Yuki was moving to another city for work. The day she left, I felt a heavy sadness. We hugged tightly, and I promised to keep in touch. "You are my family now," she said. I learned that goodbyes are never easy. They leave a quiet hole in the heart, but they also show us how much we care. Not long after, I graduated from university. The ceremony was beautiful. I wore a traditional hakama, and my family joined me through a video call. I felt proud and grateful. At the ceremony, my friends and I took many photos. We laughed and cried. We promised to support each other, no matter where life took us. Japan had given me many gifts: knowledge, strength, kindness, and friendship. When I thought about my journey, I realized something important. Life is about connections. Even when we are far from home, the people we meet and the bonds we make become our true family. I carried my friends' smiles with me. I carried the lessons of patience, respect, and courage. I carried my dreams, alive and strong. And I knew, no matter where I went next, I was ready for the future. Now, my time in Japan is not just days and months, it is a part of me. When I look back on my journey, I see many moments that shaped who I am today. I remember the first time I cried with joy, holding the scholarship letter. I remember the rain in Tokyo, feeling lost until a stranger helped me. I remember serving coffee in the cafe, learning gammon when I made mistakes. I remember the quiet onsen under the stars and the soft petals of cherry blossoms drifting in spring. All these memories are like stars in my sky. They guide me when I feel afraid or unsure. Japan taught me many lessons. Kindness matters. A simple smile or a gentle word can change someone's day. Respect is powerful. Bowing, thanking, and caring for others builds strong bonds. Patience brings peace. Courage creates growth. As I look toward the future, I hold these lessons close. I think about the work I want to do. I want to connect people from different countries, to share the beauty of Japan with others, and to bring back kindness and respect to my own home. I dream of writing books about my experiences. I imagine teaching children in my town the magic of tea ceremonies, the quiet strength of samurai stories, and the wonder of snow-covered mountains. I want to show them that a small spark of curiosity can light up an entire life. To you, who may be reading or listening to my story now, I offer this message. Your dreams are seeds. They start small, but with care, patience, and courage, they can grow into strong trees. You may feel afraid at times. You may feel alone. But remember, every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your dream. Be kind to others and to yourself. Learn from every mistake. Celebrate every small victory. And never forget that the world is full of people willing to help, sometimes strangers who become friends. Life in Japan changed me. It opened my heart, tested my strength, and filled my mind with wonder. Now I carry Japan with me, wherever I go.